It's Vanessa here with another scrapbook process video. And this video today is one that I actually originally had intended to be a real-time scrapbook process video. And so during the video, you're definitely going to see my hands moving and me looking like I'm explaining things. And it's because I had intended that to be what this layout was going to be. I had ended up having something happen with my sound. I've been having some issues with not only my voiceovers, but like if I try to do something real time, my sound has been having some issues. So hopefully I'm getting it resolved and this ends up working for this voiceover. But basically what I started to do, or what I intended to do for this layout, is I had done that original layout that I showed at the beginning, and I had left over texture paste and I didn't want to waste it. So I grabbed a piece of white cardstock and I just put the texture paste on that white cardstock and did a little bit of splatters and things like that to the background. And I often will do that when I have leftover mixed media supplies and it's, I don't want to waste my supplies. And so I just grab a piece of white cardstock. And in this case, I just kind of put it in the middle of the page and said, okay, I'll use this down the road. And so I had it laying there and I decided that I was going to pull it out and create a layout. So what I decided to do was focus on the pinks and the peaches and then pull in some black to add that contrast. And so that is what I'm doing here. Is I'm just showing you, first I showed you the original layout and then I showed the mixed media and what it looked like after I threw it on this white piece of cardstock. And then basically here I'm just going through and showing all of the items that I pulled from my stash using a lot of scrap papers for the majority of this. And then I have all of these embellishments that you see me showing here that I just went through and pulled things that were in those pink and peach sort of tones. And then I had a really fun idea that I wanted to try, and that's why there's all of these labels. So there's a lot of items that I pulled for this layout, and I think I end up using all of them on this page. So if you are one of those more is more type of scrappers, you will probably love this layout because I do a lot of layering and there's a lot on this page, which this is one of those layouts that I did it a while back, but it's one of those ones that I absolutely love how it turned out. And it's one of those, I got an idea in my head as I was pulling supplies for it, and I ran with it, and I loved the end result. I adore this layout. It turned out so cute. So the first thing that I'm doing here is I have two pieces of pink cardstock. One is a light pink, and then I have this darker pink. Now that darker pink piece of cardstock is a very light piece of cardstock, and so it would never have worked to mat the photo just on that, or the layout just on that. So what I did is I'm going to do a double mat. So I basically just cut like half an inch off of the dark pink and then half an inch off the white. And so I'm going to have sort of a double mat around my white cardstock. And now I am going to start building up my clusters. So like I said, I had the idea already in my head of how I wanted this layout to look. So as I'm building this out, I've sped it up. So you see me going really fast, but real time, this video was more than 30 minutes. I'm pretty slow overall. And so you definitely had a lot of me fussing, but I was just kind of talking through my process of sort of that I start with the frame, that's the base, and then I have like this tag and that goes on next, and then I have this large chipboard heart. So I build those layers, the bigger pieces first, and then I have a fussy cut camera, and then I have the vellum, butterfly, and I sort of talked through, I layer them up piece by piece. And in this case, I knew I wanted, for the design I had in my head, I wanted to have that cluster up at the top. And so as you see my layout right now, that cluster at the top, that's how I had it in my head. And so I designed that part first. Now I'm just taking my photo and all of those pattern papers that you saw at the beginning. Some were from Felicity Jane, some were from, I think, a paper pad of some sort. Like I said, I just went and grabbed things in the colors that I was aiming to use on this page and layered them up. I do that a lot with my photos. I have a lot of layers that I usually put under my photos, and they don't all go around completely around the photo. I just layer up a whole bunch of patterns. Now, you also saw that I did my little washi trick with the washi, put on some white cardstock so I can then cut it apart. That's exactly what I did, because that polka dotted black and white washi will make its way around the layout in a few places, and so it's great. It's a great way to use the washi and then have it be like a piece of pattern paper. So now that I got my photo on the page, this is where all of those labels come in that I was saying that, hey, if you're a more is more, this is a more is more, especially when it comes to labels. If you ever wanted to know ways to layer up labels, this is a good one. I actually ended up wanting to use those labels as basically a shelf. So a lot of people would put a piece of pattern paper across the bottom and have that sort of be a shelf. I, have done that for sure. That's definitely a typical design that I've done. But what I wanted to do is I had all these labels, and I was like, I'm just going to layer up all these labels all along the bottom. It'll be like sort of like this patchwork of labels. And then I'm going to take all these random embellishments, and I'm just going to layer them up. And I'm going to have, as typical fashion, I have a hard time getting away from it. I have sort of 3 clusters, and I absolutely adore how this looks. I love the look of all of these labels piled up on top of each other. And I have that chipboard piece that kind of, again, grounds that bottom of the bottom of those labels. And like I said, lots of layering, lots of bits and pieces, starting with, the bigger pieces, layering them up with the smaller pieces on top. I have some florals, I have some wood veneer, so I have some textures with chipboard, and I add some pop dots to sort of pop things up. And so once I had this general layout and this was how the design was going to look, I did know that the other thing I wanted to incorporate in this layout, because I'm trying to use them more, was some stamping. And so here's where I'm showing I pulled these stamps from Citrus Twist. I think most of them are from Citrus Twist. There might be one from L Studio. And what's great about these little stamps is there's little icons. So I have a little heart that I'm going to use, and then I have some word phrases. So here is where I've gone off camera and I've glued everything down, or at least the majority of things down. And this is where it gets a little bit nerve-wracking, because I've glued everything down. But what did I say? I'm going to do some stamping. So I could, this is one of those things where you go, okay, I'm going to do this, and I could mess it up. But here's the thing, you can always cover it up. I could have always found a wood veneer or something and covered up if I messed up the stamping. But it actually turned out really good. I love how it looks. But I added a little heart to each cluster. I'm keeping it really simple. I mean, there's nothing really hard about any of this. It's really just lots of layers, and then I just added some stamping. I have the word adventure on this one little label that's kind of going to go there by that cluster down in the bottom left. And then I have this other little stamp that says captured, and this was probably the hardest one because I had to stamp it around that chipboard piece, but I got it in there. It's not perfectly straight, but you know what? I'm okay with that. And I like I said, I adore how this looks. It turned out so cute. I really, really love it. The whole combination of the black with these peach and pink tones is adorable. And now here I'm just going to put in the black sequins that I pulled that I'm just going to dot throughout this layout, as well as some of those pink tones that were in the other sequin pack that I showed at the beginning. And I do end up having to stamp another heart in that third cluster because the wood veneer that I put on actually covered it. So in the still photos, you will see that. And this is how the final layout for this one came together. I absolutely, like I said, adore this layout, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you like the layout, please think about giving me a like. And if you are new to my channel, welcome. I hope you are finding lots of inspiration. And with that one, guys, I will leave you with these pictures and catch you on the next one. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.